And what's your team?
Team Royal.
Team Royal.
I wanted the Rockies, but they weren't.
Okay, listen. What we're going to do is we're going to line up right here. Not yet. Wait for instructions, please. We're going to line up right here. And then you will be presented with your question and you'll be able to knock the pins down, okay? So what I want you to do is with your teammates, go ahead and swivel around and line up.
This team right here.
Okay, remember you have to raise your hand to be able to answer. Can you talk to your teammates if you're not sure of the answer?
No.
Yes, that's why we're in a team. When you're in a team, you work together, right? So if you need to do a quick huddle or a turnaround, can you?
Yes.
Yes.
It's like football, baseball, whatever you want to do, like bowling.
We have two balls, so the Go God Legends and the Royal. will both, thank you. We'll both get a ball that you can hold. I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to ask you verbally and show you the question, okay? Don't look yet because I'm mixing them up. Remember to raise your hand to answer. If you get the answer right, then it'll be your turn to bowl. Anybody have any questions? Gracie, tell me what we're doing. Can you tell me what we're doing? Can you talk to your teammates? Okay. There's your ball. You already had your hand raised, so that question was asked. Go ahead, Darkwest.
We had a friendly fire.
Friendly fire. What was a friendly fire?
Watch that teammate. Watch that teammate shot you by accident.
Very good.
Sorry.
Was Stonewall Jackson in the Confederate Army? Yes or no? Sophia. Yes, good job.
Go, Sophia.
Sophia, come on. Got this.
Good job. Jerome, and let her help her.
Taylor wants to go last.
Ready? What is Thomas Jackson's nickname?
Stonewall Jackson.
Very good. Very good.
It is.
Confederacy, something that has not been shared. Something that has not been shared. One fact about the Confederacy. Kaylee.
They got angry at the Union because they had more, because they didn't want slaves and they did.
Okay, well, we have talked about that, so can you give me something else? What is one fact, Gracie?
They separated.
They separated! Yeah!
She's gonna miss it. Hit it! Hit it!
Why did Thomas Jackson's death affect the South?
We're winning by one.
Kyrie, make sure I ask the complete question, okay? Go ahead. Why did Thomas Jackson's death affect the South?
They thought that because he helped them.
We're moving on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Colby, share.
Affected them because the Stonewall Jackson pushed the Union back.
Very good! Yes! Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's talk about the experience on how we were battling, and let's relate that to what we learned today. And we did have the winner, GGLs. GGLs. So your team at the end of class will get together and decide if you want to eat with a teacher or if you want to go to the garden. And I know that Friday's extra recess for the school, so we will try to maybe get something together to do it tomorrow. Okay? So that means you have until dismissal today to decide as a team. It's got to be unanimous, which means you've all got to agree together. Okay? Does GGLs understand? We got to agree together? Make make sure it is a question. It's something that we talked about today, okay? Colby?
I told you this earlier. What sickness did his dad die from?
Okay, so when we're talking about Thomas Jackson's dad, Jonathan, he got sick from typhoid fever. So similar to kind of like the flu. I think I'm correct on that. I think I'm correct that the typhoid fever is similar to the flu. It's like when you get really, really sick, you can't get out of the bed. And what we can do, Colby, if you want to find out more about that type of fever that he had, then we can definitely research it and learn together, because I would love to do that with you.
How do you spell it?
We'll get together outside of class so we don't take class time and we can learn more. Does that sound good? You okay with that? Okay. Are there any other questions?
No.
Okay, heads down, eyes closed. Heads down, eyes closed. Heads down, eyes closed. Remember your social contract, please. If you're confused about anything we have talked about today in our lesson, I want you to raise your hand. Nobody's looking. Heads down. Nobody's looking. If you are confused or have questions about today's lesson, and you are embarrassed or you don't want to ask in front of your classmates, raise your hand and let me know that you have a silent question or you're confused and you want to talk to me about it privately. So in other words, if you're confused or have a question and don't want to ask right now, raise your hand. And nobody's looking, nobody's going to know that you raised your hand. It's just going to be between me and your teachers and I, so that we can address it, okay? Make sure I use proper grammar as well. Remember, we all make mistakes. Okay, hands down, heads up, eyes open. We're going to move into the last portion of our lesson. I know that it's been exciting. You have an exit slip that looks like this on your table. You can choose to use the paper copy. It is also available to you on Google Classroom. If you would rather complete it on Google Classroom by typing, you can do that. If you'd rather use the paper copy, you can do that. I only need one turned in. Chromebook or hand copy. Your choice, okay? How many copies are you turning in? One. Hand copy or on your Chromebook. So you're going to put your name in the first blank. And then you're going to write 3 things you learned today about Stonewall Jackson and his role in the Civil War. 3 things. You can list them. Make sure it's a complete sentence. List 3 things you learned about Stonewall Jackson. things you learned about. Just kind of put your pencil down since I'm giving you time as a class to do it together. So that way I know. And then I'll let you go forward individually in just a second, okay? There's no rush. You have plenty of time. Plenty of time. While you're waiting for us to go to number 2, on the back of your exit slip, you can create a rap about Stonewall Jackson. If you don't want to do a rap, you can do a song. You can create one about Stonewall Jackson, and once you finish the whole thing, you can use your Chromebook to look for more information if you want to. And then when a peer buddy has finished, you can practice your songs together. But right now we're at level 0. Now we'll go ahead and read the next question, or the next statement. Write 2 things you want to learn more about in today's lesson. Write 2 things you want to know more about. So anything about Thomas Stonewall Jackson that you want to know more information about, write 2 things in that blank. Okay, the last one, write 1 question you still have about Stonewall Jackson. Write 1 question you still have about Stonewall Jackson. Think about your questions, how they start. Who, what, when, where, why, how. So that one should start with one of those words, right? Write 1 question that you have about him that we talked about, or maybe you still are confused, especially if you raised your hand when we put our heads down to show that you were confused and you still had questions. That's the place you're going to put it so that we can talk about it, okay? Focus, please. the last one, you're going to have to flip the page over. And it says, how do you feel about your knowledge of Stonewall Jackson? How do you feel about your knowledge of Stonewall Jackson? Your choices are, I understand and can teach a friend. I understand but cannot explain it. I still have a lot of questions. So you're going to choose one. And that's just going to tell me how you feel. Remember we talked about how we speak up for ourselves if we're confused. We speak up for ourselves if we want to know more. This is our chance to do that. It's called self-efficacy. Okay? And remember, once you have completed all parts of your exit slip, if you're doing it on the Chromebook, you can submit it. If you're doing it on the hand copy, you can turn it over so that I can pick it up, or you can work on your rap about Stonewall Jackson on the back while we wait on our friends. Okay, now that we completed the exit, let's make sure you did submit it. Make sure that if you have the paper copy, you have it turned over in the center of your table. So we did learn a lot today. We learned about Thomas Stonewall Jackson. We even did some of that prior knowledge and talked about the Union. And what was the Union? Up north. Remember the UN and Union, up north. We talked about Confederate, which was south. South. And with Stonewall Jackson, what part of the army was he in?
Confederate. Wait.
Confederate. And where did his nickname come from?
Because he could never move.
Because he stand like a Stonewall.
Because he was like a stone wall. You couldn't get past him, right? And he pushed north or south?
North.
North. 2 miles into the north, right? And when he passed, what did it do? How did it affect the Confederate States?
They lost confidence.
They lost confidence. And why do you think, Harry, that they lost confidence when he passed away?
Because he encouraged them a lot.
He did encourage them, and he encouraged them because he was able to push forward and try to make a difference for the Confederate States. And so when he passed, it hit them really hard because they realized that stone wall was gone, right? So we did a lot of learning today. We were able to have fun with our Battle of Bowling and Stonewall Jackson.
Right.
You do have your note takers where you wrote in the blanks and where you highlighted. I want you to make sure that you are reviewing because you do have a test coming up. And that test is going to cover all the people we have talked about in the standard. And you have notes on that too, right? Yes. So what are you going to do when you go home tonight? Study. So while we wait to transition into ELA, if you want to work a little bit more on your song or your rap or talk about it with your peers, you can. If you have any further questions, make sure that you come to me and talk to me about it. This is your time. If your team won, remember you get to choose if you're going to eat as a team with your teachers or if you're going to the sensory garden. We need to know by dismissal so we can plan it. Does everybody understand?
It's supposed to be raining tomorrow.
Remember, I'm not sure, but we can check the weather and find out, Ryan. Are there any last comments, questions about our lesson today? Thank y'all for learning with me.